Amad Diallo isn't just a rising star in the Premier League, he's a potential game changer. But what magic did Amorim weave to unlock his brilliance? And what does Amad need to reach the legendary levels of players like Messi or Mata? Watch to the end to find out. This is why the Premier League should fear Amad Diallo under Amorim. You know how some young players get tagged with that label, the next Messi? Yeah, it's almost like a blessing and a curse rolled into one. Everyone starts expecting magic every time you touch the ball, and for Amad, that hype wasn't just talk. I mean, the kid had everything. The silky dribbles, the close control, the vision to pick out a pass nobody else saw. People were losing it over him before he even set foot in England. But let's be real, living up to that kind of expectation? That's no walk in the park. Amad came to Manchester United with all eyes on him, and yeah, he showed flashes. Do you remember that Europa League goal against AC Milan? Chef's kiss, pure class. And before all the Manchester United hype, Amad was already turning heads at Atalanta. And I mean, seriously turning heads. He made his debut at just 17, and guess what? He scored within 10 minutes of coming on. You had 10 minutes. That's how you announce yourself to the world. Even with limited minutes in Serie A, you could tell this kid was something special. His dribbling? Unreal. His composure on the ball? Way beyond his years. Atalanta's fans were raving about him. And it wasn't just hype, they knew they had a gem. It's no wonder United splashed the cash to get him. Atalanta gave us a glimpse, but everyone knew Amad had much more to offer. And now, the Premier League is starting to see what all the fuss was about. After moving to Manchester United, things didn't exactly go as planned for Amad at United. Like, we all saw the potential, but it felt like he just wasn't getting the minutes to prove himself. And honestly, that's the story for so many young players, right? You're stuck waiting for your momentum when it comes. You've got maybe 10 minutes to make everyone remember your name. But even with limited chances, Amad did deliver some jaw-dropping moments. Like that game against AC Milan. How many players even think about trying that cheeky header, let alone pulling it off? He made it look so effortless. And then there were those little flashes, a slick dribble here, a perfectly weighted pass there. You could tell this kid wasn't just talented, he was special. Still, consistency is king, and that's where things got tricky. He had a decent run for a bit, but then, boom, back to the bench. It was frustrating to watch because you knew he had so much more to give. It wasn't like he was making big mistakes. It just seemed like the system or the situation wasn't working in his favor. When Amad wasn't playing, you couldn't help but wonder, is this kid going to end up as one of those what could have been stories? But then came the turning point. United decided to send him out on loan. And let me tell you, that's where things got interesting. At first he was taken to Rangers, but then he was later moved to Sunderland. And it turned out to be the perfect stage for Amad to shine. From the moment he stepped on the pitch, you could tell he was on a different level. The way he glided past defenders like they weren't even there. The confidence to take shots from anywhere. And the sheer creativity in his play. It was like watching someone on a playground, just having fun. And the stats backed it up. He racked up 14 goals and 4 assists in all competitions that season. For a winger in the Championship, that's ridiculous. He wasn't just scoring tap-ins either. We're talking screamers, curlers, and those "did he just do that" moments? But what stood out the most wasn't just his flair, it was his work ethic. He didn't just stay out wide waiting for the ball, he tracked back, fought for possession, and showed he was willing to grind it out. Sunderland fans fell in love with him, and honestly, who could blame them? By the end of the season, he wasn't just their player of the season, he was one of the most talked about young players in the league, and suddenly, United fans started dreaming again. Is this it? Is Amad finally ready to take the Premier League by storm? So after tearing it up at Sunderland, Amad returned to Manchester United and the hype was real. I mean, we were all thinking, finally this is his time. Especially with Antony struggling to find consistency on the right wing. It felt like the stars had aligned for Amad to step in and make that spot his own. But guess what? That didn't happen. Instead, we got one of the most frustrating seasons as a fan. Sometimes Garnacho was shifted to the right wing, and other times Antony was back in the lineup, despite not exactly setting the world on fire. And Amad, well, back to warming the bench. At this point, United fans were scratching their heads. Like, why? Why wasn't this kid who had just smashed it in the Championship getting a shot? It wasn't just us either. Pundits were saying it too. Amad had the talent, the form, and the momentum. So what was the deal? Well, then came the twist. When Ten Hag left the club and Ruud van Nistelrooy stepped in as acting coach. And for a brief moment, it felt like we were finally going to see Amad in action. And to be fair, Ruud did give him some minutes. It wasn't perfect, but he was electric. You could see the spark, the creativity, the hunger. But it wasn't until Rubén Amorim took over that things got interesting. And trust me, Amorim's approach to Amad? It's a game changer, but we'll get into that next because the way Amad was used under Amorim will make you question everything about how he's been handled before. But before we get into that, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. This would really help us. Thank you, and now back to the video. When Amorim came in, he didn't just rip up the playbook. He built on what Ruud van Nistelrooy had started. At first, Amorim kept things simple. He stuck with Ruud's approach, easing Amad into games, but you could tell he had a bigger plan. Slowly he started experimenting, and that's when things got wild. Amad went from playing wing-back, a role you'd never expect for a player like him, to thriving as an inside forward, and guess what? He nailed it. He didn't just change Amad's position, he unlocked new dimensions in his game. As a wing-back, Amad learned the discipline of tracking back, the endurance to cover ground, and the vision to read the game from deeper positions. When Amorim shifted him to an inside forward, all those skills came together in the most dangerous way possible. Now, Amad is almost a complete package. He's got the creativity to thread impossible passes, the work rate to press relentlessly, and the ability to finish like a seasoned striker. Amorim's tactical tweaks turned Amad from a talented winger into a versatile weapon. He's no longer just a spark on the pitch, he's a player who can dictate the game in multiple roles. This reinvention didn't just elevate Amad, it gave Manchester United a new kind of threat. And honestly, it's scary to think how much better he can still get under Amorim's guidance. But what really led to Amad's improvement this season? In this season, Amad Diallo has taken his game to new heights, showing why he's quickly becoming one of Manchester United's most exciting players. There's no denying that his improvements in key areas, such as his positioning, creativity in attack, and consistency, have had a significant impact on the Red Devils. Firstly, Amad's role has evolved, with a more advanced positioning that allows him to influence the game in the final third. Despite being one of the smallest players in the team, standing at just 5'8", Amad has proven to be a fighter. Whether it's holding off defenders or tracking back to contribute defensively, his work ethic stands out. This was visible in his recent match against Everton, where Amad won an impressive 12 out of 17 duels, making him the most successful player. One of the major aspects of this improvement has been his creativity in attack. Amad has shown an incredible flair for not only retaining possession, but also making decisive passes and creating chances. His dribbling skills have been a standout feature, as he's able to glide past defenders with ease, like when he took on Everton fullback and created a chance that nearly led to a goal. His ability to operate in tight spaces and still find a way to break through opposition lines adds a layer of unpredictability to United's attack. A standout moment came against Manchester City, where Amad's improved vision and movement off the ball were on full display. Whether linking up with teammates or making those key runs into the box, he created opportunities that showcased his growing confidence. His close control and agility in situations where others might rely on pace make him an even more dangerous player. He's not simply a winger relying on speed. Amad's technical ability allows him to operate in multiple roles across the attacking line. What truly sets Amad apart this season is his consistency. While many young players can have bursts of brilliance, followed by lapses in form, Amad has maintained a high level of performance in nearly every game he's played. His adaptability, whether as a winger or in a more central role, speaks to his growth as a player under Erik ten Hag's system. He's not just making an impact in one-off games, he's providing consistent contributions week in and week out, something that was evident in his performances against both Everton and Manchester City. Amad's development this season is the result of his growing maturity, tactical awareness, and his ability to deliver in big moments. He's proving that he's not only a talented young player, but one that Manchester United can rely on for years to come. If he continues on this trajectory, there's no limit to how far he can go in his career. But for him to really go far, there are things that he needs to really improve on. First, his decision-making under pressure. Like, the Premier League isn't like any other competition. It's fast, it's intense, and the pressure is always on. Amad has shown flashes of brilliance, but sometimes he tends to hesitate or overthink in key moments. That split-second decision, whether to take the shot, play the pass, or hold up the ball, can make all the difference. He needs to trust his instincts more and become a quicker thinker when it counts. Next, leadership. Think of a player like Juan Mata, quiet but so influential. Amad could take a page out of Mata's book when it comes to leadership. Mata wasn't the loudest guy in the room, but he led by example, working hard, staying calm, and making others around him better. Amad's still young, but with time, he needs to develop that calm, mature presence on the pitch. Even if he's not shouting at his teammates, this play can speak volumes. And then the physical side of things. We all know how rough the Premier League can be, and Amad's not the biggest guy out there. He's got the skill and the flair, but to thrive in the Premier League's intense, physical games, he's gonna need to build more muscle. We've seen players like Eden Hazard, who were once light and agile but bulked up to handle the physicality. It's all about striking that balance. Maintaining his speed and agility, but getting stronger to hold his own against the big guys. It's not about changing his style, it's about making sure he's ready for the challenges that come with being a top Premier League player. But honestly, if he keeps working on those areas, we could be talking about him as one of the league's best in a few years, and this is why the Premier League should fear him now. Look, Amad is still young, and that means the best is yet to come. His potential is off the charts, and if he keeps improving, he's going to be a nightmare for defenders. You can already see it when he gets on the ball. His quick feet, his ability to twist and turn, leaving defenders in the dust. But what stands out is that he has the mind for it too. He's got that football IQ that makes you think, okay, this kid's got the brain to match the flair. Now imagine a fully developed Amad with all his areas polished: decision-making, leadership, physical strength. Suddenly, we're talking about a player who's not just a threat on the wing, but someone who can change the course of a game in a heartbeat. He'll be taking on defenders, creating chances, scoring goals, and dragging teams apart with his skill and vision. And don't forget that leadership quality, that'll be huge too. A player who's not only creating magic, but also lifting the whole team when it matters. That's the kind of guy every Premier League team dreads facing. So yeah, defenders, take note. This kid's gonna be the one causing nightmares for you in a few years. And honestly, the sooner he reaches that peak, the sooner the Premier League is going to have to deal with him as one of the most dangerous players in the league. But what do you think? Can he become the next big thing in the Premier League? Well, let me know in the comments, and when you're done, watch this video on which players Amorim would chase at Manchester United.